We'll press the record button there. We'll go to middle screen there. And then QT Pack. How's it going, buddy?
Not too bad. Just
It
got
is.
back home from like a 2.5 hour drive.
Wowzers. Wowzers. Fun trip,
Yeah.
though?
Sorry, what was that?
Fun trip, though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. I visited
Okay.
my girlfriend, celebrated Valentine's Day a few days late.
Ooh, that's exciting. That's exciting. I'm happy for
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
All right, dude. So we're doing a deck doctor here on your super rad, super cool Tokoyami deck. Thank you for the support over on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course.
Helping the dream stay alive. So have you seen the deck doctors and how they kind of
I've
operate, how they work?
I've seen a few. Yeah,
Okay. So the big
yeah.
thing about this is I want this to be a conversation with you, not at you. I don't want to talk at you. That's lame. I wanted to bring you on so that we could conversate together and we could fix your deck. So or at least polish your deck, right? I'm sure there's nothing really wrong with your deck, but just like get my ideas, my thoughts on it. So with that, shoot me the elevator pitch for your Chaos Tokoyami OTK deck.
So goal of the deck is to spam out as many foundations as you can turn one.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's a lot of like zeros, ones, a few twos.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then turn two, use the line I like to use is preferably Dark Shadow Ruin, and then into however many summon Dark Shadows you can get, followed up with the Crow and Frog takedowns, which is like some kind of finisher if they haven't died by like the second or third Crow and Frog.
Right.
So that's why the Frigid Heat Wave and the Ice Storms are there. Um, I sort of base this whole thing around ranged attacks, mostly because I pulled a bunch of the like what are they called? XRs. It's like I have an XR Frigid Heat Wave, two XR Dark Shadow Ruins, and I was like, I'm making the deck now.
Yeah, you should. You should. That's rad.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I noticed about your lines is you start with Ruin and then end with Crow and Frog. What is that?
Yeah. I've played a bunch of different card games prior to this.
Mm-hmm.
This is I think this is my second ever deck, so I'm not 100% sure how everything should be working here.
Right.
And I haven't played too much in person,
Okay.
mostly because my work schedule doesn't work well with other people's.
Right. That's fair. I
Um,
get that.
yeah. So what I notice is that when you start with Dark Shadow Ruin, you can use up like two or three copies of Summon Dark Shadow that don't add on to the difficulty,
Right.
which allows you to just kind of spam out the Crow and Frogs, which also remove them from difficulty. So when you play if you have to play a finisher, you really don't have to worry about getting the right checks, which
Right.
is why stuff like Release and Self Assured, which are 4 checks, are in there.
Interesting. So you top load the damage on the ruins and see how many ruins or excuse me on shadows. See how many shadows you can get in the pool first, and then you
Yeah.
just play the rest of your turn out like they don't count. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I also noticed that Dark Shadow Ruin deals like a butt ton of damage just by
Yeah.
itself,
Right.
which is why I can understand doing it last. But I think the ability to get rid of the actions and the progressive difficulty is way better than having to worry about dealing 9 damage with one shot when you're doing like two, three, four, 5 attacks.
That is fair. That is fair. So hit me with the attack package. You're playing 17 attacks in your 50 card deck, right? Yeah, 50. It looks like there's only the one Frigid Heatwave. You think that's enough?
I think that's as much as I can afford.
That is fair. That is fair.
Yeah.
Um, and then Meteor Shower. Where does that come into play?
So meteor shower is if I'm not getting any crow and frogs. I figured if I can get like one or two meteor showers, then
Mm-hmm.
I can loop those enough to deal enough damage, and then just end it on like an ice storm.
Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah.
I
So if
dig
I
it.
can't win turn two, meteor shower is going to set me up on turn 3 or 4.
Okay. I dig that. I dig that a lot. How do you feel about Home Run Comet as a card?
I'm not too familiar with all the cards. I
That's okay.
think I remember what Home Run Comet does.
Home Run Comet is the 3 high for 4. It's got a 1 mid block. It does not have the range keyword. It has weapon and charge and powerful 1. And it gets an increase to its powerful rating for each high or charge attack in your pool. As well as you can take and put any card from your stage into your momentum.
I see.
And so as a finisher, with Crow and Frogs not counting towards your progressive, Meteor Showers being high and charges, Dark Shadow Ruin being a high, Frigid Heatwave being a high. That card doesn't count towards Frigid Heatwave's draw 2 ability, but It is the mother of all dunks if you can play it as like your fourth card with a bunch of Summon Dark Shadows in the pool and so on and so forth. It just gets real fast because of the shadows, and it gets really, really big because of sometimes it can have like powerful 5, and it looks like you're playing ways to steal bonus momentum off of Wealthy Aspiration. And so, as well as it can steal a momentum as your first card, and then you can start your meteor loops if you didn't have a momentum. You could just like jam 2 meteors into your momentum from a meteor, and then pick it up, and we're off to the races.
Yeah, I was noticing in some of my playtests that Wealthy Aspirations wasn't really living up to the hype for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it like lucky top deck a meteor shower with one, and then I was able to destroy the other to get the meteor shower.
Right.
Um, but past that, it wasn't really dealing much, which was actually something I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't think whenever we leave today, Wealthy Aspirations is going to be at a 4 of, especially because it has that unique keyword, and that means that
yeah,
we're only allowed to have one copy of it in our stage at a time.
yeah,
And so keeping it, trying to play around this having only the one copy, or the one copy on board. It's a great block. Like a one low block feels good, but it's probably not going to feel great. So I've made a copy of this list. Let me go find some cards that we get to put in.
Uh, while you're doing that, I also would like to say this is like my first official deck that I'll be using. I tried making an eraser head deck that was based around Bakugo attacks, and the more I played into it, the more I realized, man, this is just not living up to what I wanted it to do.
Yeah, that is
Uh,
totally fair.
yeah. So this is the deck that I'm making right now, and as of right now, I have 0 Crow and Frogs. I only have Dark. I'm replacing it with like Dark Shadow Talon,
Okay.
which I
Okay.
figured wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
And looking at the attacks too, I know you mentioned the home run comment. I kind of ignored everything that didn't say ranged attack
Yeah.
because I was like, well, if I can't win turn 2 or turn 3, I have to be able to hold out. So I figured I'd add in a bunch of draw cards like the self assureds
Right.
to draw off like possibly 2 more cards if I could. I think like an average I get 2 because Tokoyami just keeps milling the attacks into the discard.
Yeah, that makes sense. The big thing about Self Assured is once again it's got that unique keyword, and so like we're gonna
Yeah.
find 2 or 3 of them in our hand and feel bad that we're just not allowed to progress our game state at all.
Mhm.
Okay, so I've added a couple cards to our sideboard here. Home Run Comet, the card that I was talking about, charge powerful
Yeah.
1 weapon. But if you really want to keep with the range theme, I think that you could actually just play Indiscriminate Shock. It is a charge. It's a ranged. It's very low for just as big as Home Run Comet. It just is a 5 diff as opposed to a 4 diff. But if we're playing some of Dark Shadows and we're able to chain them out a little bit later into our pool, that 5 diff is not that big of a deal, and they are a good low block that is affordable as opposed to Frigid Heatwave. Yeah.
Mhm.
You could easily take in and just take out these Chrome Frogs take them out right now and put in the Indiscriminate Shocks and feel good. The other big cards that we want to play are Electric Jolt, but that's probably just a sideboard card because this card deals with coordinated effort really well. And then Giant Ice Wall says that if you Giant Ice Wall and then summon Dark Shadow and then Dark Shadow Ruin, you have stun 5 on your board. With stun 2, then Dark Shadow Ruin gets stun 2 because it's ranged, and then it itself gets stun 1.
Yeah.
So stun 5 means that you're probably gonna win that turn.
So actually, one thing with Giant Ice Wall was that I was considering playing it for a while. I tested it like a few times, and I just figured that hey, I'm not getting enough momentum on like turn 2, etc.
Mm.
And when I do, I want to use it for the meteor shower.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's cut it. It's
Yeah.
Gonzo. Boop. Yeah, I think Jolt might be or sorry, Volts might be where it's at, and maybe like finding room for 2 of these, or maybe like currently we take out the Crow and Frogs because we just don't have them, right? Like this is
Yeah.
the ones that we want to run, but Volts seems good, or even like we
Mhm.
put it in at a 1 of for the idea of like the second heat wave. It's an 18 attack deck, but the fact that we're drawing cards and like we are trying to kill them on turn 2, we have to see it. And with pluses to our checks, it's okay that we're checking 3s because these 3s are actually 6s.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Actions. How many plus ultras do you have?
I have 0.
0, then we're not gonna worry about that one.
Yep.
I think Plus Ultra could easily be one of the cards that Tokoyami gets to take a real advantage of, because he says Plus Ultra doesn't count towards progressive, but it is a momentum out, and if we're really trying to triple, quadruple down on Meteor Shower, then we need all that momentum that we can.
Yeah. I noticed actually at like every single one of your videos, you're like, get plus ultra. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
get plus ultra. Like
Yeah.
the worst thing, I think one of the things he said was the worst thing they can do is stop reprinting it.
Yep. Yes.
Um, and looked into it and I was like, oh my God, this plus the 4 crow and frogs would cost me like 200 some odd dollars.
Yeah, definitely,
And
definitely don't break the bank for it. And they're going to be on redemption, right? Have you if on the back of every single universes pack,
yeah,
my hero or not, there's a little skull, and you can send in X amount of packs and get promos. And so as soon as my hero redemption starts up, they will just or plus ultras are going to be all over the place.
dang, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I opened a few boxes. The first box I opened, no one told me about that. I felt bad throwing the whole thing away, but I
Yeah.
opened a few more boxes. I was like, wow, now I have a good number.
Yeah, we at my locals we take, as opposed to doing all separate ones, we're just doing a mass collection, and then we're as soon as redemption happens, we're going to take all of those and put them into the store, and this is going to be more prize support for people as we
Nice.
continue the seasons. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm hyped for it.
Yeah.
On to the foundation lineup. So hit me with the foundations and your elevator pitch for that, because there's a lot of interesting choices for a lot, honestly, a lot of four ofs. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Let's talk about
Um,
it.
so, like I said earlier, foundations are supposed to be low. I was trying to get in as many of the lows as I can, just so I can spam out like 5 on turn 1. Saying that I do draw the 5, which is why there's 4 requesting assistance, 4 releases. There's 4 stronger in darknesses, which personally I think should always be a 4 of in this deck when you're trying to OTK.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Everything else is like a 1 or a 2 of, and that's just because I think, man, a lot of these are just way too good not to ignore. Um, so I actually swapped in one thing. I can't remember what it was, but I have encouraging training partner in my real deck now. Uh,
Okay.
and I also, so the thing I was worried about too was, I think I already said wealthy aspirations. I was worried about because I wasn't, it was sort of just in there. It wasn't really doing much. And I wanted to know what you would probably replace a few of those with. The back to backs too. Um, I noticed like it's a good surprise. It'll happen once or twice because no one really knows what the heck this card does.
Right.
Um, which I think is kind of crazy because like half the cards in here say ally on them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else was there. There was the cool students, which I looked at. I was like, this should be an immediate 4 of, because it's adding to checks. It's a 7 check on itself with the summon dark shadow. It's a 10 check. So if I'm
Yeah.
like super late into the attacks and my opponent still hasn't died, I'm like, wow, I have a 10 check coming up. I really don't have to worry about what I'm going to play next.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, I think requesting assistance was because I've faced a lot of the oh, what are they called? Like the capture nets or something that adds stun. And I'm like,
Right.
well, if I have the momentum, I'll flip this, ready something else, and then I can just stun the flipped requesting assistance.
Right.
Um, the blocks I wasn't really paying too much attention to, so I don't really know
That's okay.
how good the ratio is.
Yeah. We don't have to
Um,
block if they're dead.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Uh, and then Frozen is in there solely because I pulled the XR and I was like, well, now I'm gonna play it.
I love it. I love it. Okay. I have gone ahead and put a couple cards into the sideboard that I think we should talk about. So shock treatment, stunning. Really because we want to be able to commit down our opponent's cool cards. Like that's the reason Frozen's in our deck, and so we could easily take Wealthy Aspirations down to like a 2 of because it's a unique. We want to see it, but when we do, it's fine. We don't want to see more than once, but when we see it, it feels great. And then put the shock treatment in. We're playing a bunch of cool, unique foundations, but like what happens whenever somebody you're so obvious is our Dark Shadow Ruin for 100, right? Or our indiscriminate shocks. We want to be able just to commit that card down and be like, no, you don't get to do that. Sorry, man.
Sure.
Um, Clever Distraction, a 1 cost that minuses speed, might be better than jamming a 4x of Cool Student. You said you like Cool Student, but I mean, it is a 2/5, right? So we could drop this down at a 2 of and toss in 2 of these bad boys and see what happens.
Sure.
And we're still at our 50 number. And it's just more spam, right? It's another 1 diff that we get to play. Irrefutable Force of Nature. I demand that somewhere in your main and sideboard, you're playing 4 of this card because it is the only way that you get to survive against Kirishima and stop coordinated effort. It's literally the only way that you get to play the game against him. And so you have to have 4 of it in your sideboard, or like 2 and 2, 1 and 3, something. You got to play 4 of this card. If you haven't picked these up, people at home, if you haven't picked these up, you have to pick 4 of this up. Precise Control.
Yeah, I actually, well, just real quick, I actually do have 4 of those, and another thing I wanted to talk to you about was the side, because I only looked into like the death cards and built a side for that. I have no idea what I would be doing for Chaos side for Tokoyami.
I don't normally do sideboards on deck doctors, but I can talk a little bit about like the mentality, because a lot of sideboards for these are like this is my deck from locals, and you should be sideboarding for your locals unless you're going to a big event, but your locals will dictate the big event. Like it should be pretty 1-to-1, and so it's a I talked about the mentality of sideboarding under the chaos symbol for sure. Precise Control is just another good spam if you like are not enjoying back to back, for instance, right? Like let's get rid of a 2 and make it a 1. I think In the Typhoon is a sick card. I think In the Typhoon says that you like if your opponent has a move that's gonna do 100 and you just look at them and say no. As long as it's not a throw, I just don't care about it. I'll discard my 2 cards, remove this one, and then be fine. It's okay. Your burst speed, nah. It's a 16 low for 35. I blocked it. Sorry, man. Ooh, it was close.
So in the Typhoon, I was actually looking at a little while ago, and I was like, well, I'm discarding cards from my hand. If I'm trying to kill them on turn 2 and they miraculously survive, I'm gonna have like 1 or 2 cards that I really can't, afford to just throw away for 1 single attack.
Yeah.
So I would probably sideboard it.
Sure.
I like what you're saying. I 100% like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I've faced plenty of like All Mights, I've faced plenty of Izukus, and it's like, man, I do not want to take that like 30 plus power attack.
Yeah.
And only have like half block it because I don't have the right block in my hand.
Yeah. Well, the thing about In the Typhoon, right, is that we have our 2 cards. We have the In the Typhoon, right, and that's just existing. Tokoyami's given -1 to all the things that don't matter. That we just don't care about. We have back-to-backs if we decide to keep it in the deck. That's like minusing all the damage, and then they happen to put in the big one that goes. Oh well, I guess I'll just discard these 2 foundations that I was holding to block anyways. They're not gonna let me kill you on my next turn. I'll just get these out of here, and then I blocked it. Neat. All right, I'll draw 7 fresh cards because I got both these bad cards out of my hand. I think this card is totally fine at the 1 of in the main board, and then maybe even 1 of the sideboard. But then we have to figure out like what are we cutting, like another Wealthy or something. I don't know. Yeah. So maybe it is just a good sideboard card for whenever you are going second.
Okay.
First day of class. I think this card is just hands down just a better version of back to back, right? It's a 2/5 with a low block. This is a 2/5 with a low block. This gives minus damage, but this is plus to your check, which is what we want to do so we can string harder. And so like just wanting to play bigger, longer strings is like cool. And so first day of class I think is just like a better card than back to back. And so we're gonna put it at a 1 of in the sideboard, and we're gonna put it at a 0 of in the main board. And then refresh, and we're still at 50. Okay. Charged Up. I think Charged Up is really cheeky. But if you said that you are having a hard time finding momentum for your meteor showers, Charged Up is just like a different flavor of Wealthy Aspirations. This says flip to add 1 to momentum. This says destroy to add 1 to momentum, or remove to add 1 to momentum, excuse me. Lose the resource on my board permanently, as opposed to flip it face down. And so, like, I don't think that this card is necessarily needed in your deck, but if you're just trying to absolutely wombo combo people, I think Charged Up might be where it's at.
Oh, the only thing I have with charged up is that I don't think I'm running too many of those charged or stuns. So if I did do that, I'd probably be playing more of like the indiscriminate shocks or electric jolts,
Yeah.
just to make sure that that does something.
Yeah, I completely agree. But that's just an option. I'm glad that you have the
Yeah,
counterpoint because like that is exactly it, right? Meteor shower is a charge, indiscriminate shock is a charge, and that's it, right? Or I guess
yeah, I think so.
ruin is a stun attack.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but like maybe that's the answer. My personal opinion is I wouldn't run charged up and I would just run more frozens.
sure.
Infinite potential, your low blocks are not good, and so maybe if you feel like you do have to play defensively, this could be a sideboard option to keep the spam in your deck and then find your stuff.
Okay.
All right, so onto the attacks them or the foundations themselves. 4 self assured is like a crazy number. I think that
Sure.
playing 2 of this card is totally fine, and we'll take the other 2 and put them in frozens. As we check poorly on our stuff and we're having to commit foundations, making them essentially all have stun 1 by destroying these committed foundations feels really, really good. Flipping over our wealthy aspirations, getting rid of our clever distractions, our reused first day of classes, and getting them to cycle back into our deck in case we do have to play a bit of a longer game, feels really good with Frozen. And we're giving enough speed off of Summon Dark Shadow. And what else gives speed? It's just summon. Yeah, it's just summon. We're playing chaos.
Yeah.
Giving enough speed off of Summon Dark Shadow means that these committed cards eventually down the line, whenever I do find my big dunk, will actually connect because they don't have a bunch of ready foundations. It's kind of why I like Giant Ice Wall in the deck, but we have Giant Ice Wall sitting on a foundation as long as we can string some stuff together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it makes sense to me so far. My personal opinion would be running like what 3 self-assured and 2 frozens,
Sure.
solely because the self-assureds I notice that I almost always destroy a lot of them, because I'm
Okay.
trying to dig through and try to find my summon dark shadows, and
Okay.
I'll have like a lot of attacks on my discard because of Tokoyami. Whereas frozen, I am still a little bit new, so I tend to over destroy everything.
Mm.
So I would be clearing out like if I had multiple frozens, I'd be clearing out like almost 2 a turn.
That
Which
makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I also really like that I can requesting assistance to ready the self-assured along with the crow and frogs,
Mm-hmm.
um, to like just continuously change the attack zones to make it harder for my opponent to have the right block for it.
Right. Yeah. Or with requesting, you can do it on defense and make sure that you have good block zones as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is again why I wasn't too worried about having which kind of block zones.
Yeah. How are you looking? I mean, lows, highs. I mean, you're playing chaos, and so your low block choices are like pretty bad, especially because we're not mainboarding irrefutable. But
Sure.
I think that there's something to be said about this high board. Also, we're just killing them, so it's fine. Uh, um. Yeah, I know I've been on the record saying that I don't necessarily like Cool Student. Anytime that I've ever drawn 2 of it, I've felt bad, and I wish it just had better text, as well as this card's very momentum hungry, and so is Meteor Shower. And so like this card's really good when we don't have Meteor Showers, and it's really bad when we do. Except for like maybe if I check a 5 on this last Meteor Shower, I can win. Well, I guess I have Cool Student. I'll guarantee check my 5. Um,
Sure.
and so like that might be there to the point where like I only ever play this card at a 1 of if I play it, and I think 1 of is perfect for me. But if you like this card, then I want you to play it at the 2 of, um, or maybe like you like it so much that you could put the Frozen back down to a 1 of and play the Cool Student back at a 3 of. Like these are totally valid options too that you can just like do a little play testing with, have a 15 card sideboard and like just mess around with some of your numbers as you're playing
Yeah.
locally.
I kind of like what you're saying. I think I'll stick with the 2 of the frozens, and then knock the cool students down. Because I totally get where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I do, like I said earlier, I do like Cool Student. I do like having like a 10 check with a Summon Dark Shadows, or
Yeah.
even if it's not just 7 check, which
Right.
is still insanely high for a late attack.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I get it. I do review a lot of the extra copies away if I don't have a Summon Dark Shadow in my hand.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we would just like rather it be a shock treatment, or rather it be a frozen, or rather it be something that's impactful on the board. So that's good. That's good. So onto the sideboard, right? So we're gonna I would love to see you test Home Run Comet and see how it works, especially because of how early you're jamming these Summon Dark Shadows. If you can play this as like your third or fourth attack with like +3 speed on it, like it comes in for 1,000,000 damage in your deck. It's just an absolute ton, as well as Indiscriminate Shock for the same reason. Um, Sideboard, I think Shock Treatment and Irrefutable Force of Nature, how they interact with Kirishima are like necessary, and I think that your matchup, it's almost impossible to OTK that character. Like it's really really hard. Him and Nomu, it's really really hard. And
Yeah, I
so,
haven't had the chance to face either of them so far, which
okay.
is why I don't really understand what the big deal is about it. I've played people who like use the Kirishima cards, and I'm like, man, this is like they keep getting more and more and more, and I can't keep up with the stun.
Yeah, well, it is that, but in way worse. It's that, but way worse. Coordinated effort inside of Kirishima is an absolute beating, and we have to keep him off of that card. It's like Bane on like his Venom juice, you know. Like we just like
Ooh,
we can't beat Kirishima. We have to beat coordinated in a hope to beat Kirishima.
sure.
Um, Precise Control. This card is for the I went too far. I like this card a lot mainboarded, but we're playing a very tight 50, so I don't know if we'll have a chance to play it. And this card also is one of the best cards to beat the Shigaraki attack that says that you have to block this with a 3 or higher, and because that moves a mid. And so if this card
Yeah.
can just sit in our stage and be like, oh, you've played the combo on that, all right, I'll pick this up and then I'll block it for free. I didn't lose a card in my hand. All I did was lose a foundation. You didn't just burn me for 9. That feels great. That feels really really good. We already
Yeah.
talked about Typhoon in the first day classes in our main board, so we will just get rid of that. We talked about Charged Up. That card's gone too. Infinite Potential. If you have a deck that keeps swinging low at you, Infinite Potential might be worth it to take out some of these other spams, like Clever Distraction, like Requesting Assistance, maybe your Cool Students, or maybe a little less impact on the aggro and a little more impact on defense in order
Sure.
to find it, because this number is bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad number. And so if you find like an all low Bakugo deck, they're just
Of
gonna
course.
kill you. An all low Nomu deck, they're just gonna splat you, and there's not much that you're gonna be able to do about it.
Okay.
And then back to back, I think that you could sideboard back to back exclusively if your opponent is going to be going to deadlock. But as a 50 card Tokoyami deck, you'll never get there. You'll just mill out first.
Sure.
Yeah, they won't have a
Uh,
chance to get to 11 foundations because you'll have 12 cards in your deck, and you'll be like, well, better luck next time.
yeah. Yeah. I got
Yeah.
you.
And so I think if we get more impactful allies, I think that we can play this card in the deck respectably. But I just think that like when you look at the quality of back to back versus first day of class for what you're trying to do with this deck, first day of class
Sure.
just has OTK written all over it.
Mhm.
And so for that reason, we're just gonna cut it.
Now, because I haven't like played in a lot of my locals or such, I don't have a lot of the cards that are from the packs,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I don't have any Crow and Frogs.
Yeah.
Um, so if I can't get my hands on like the first day of classes, etc., what would you suggest playing instead from the sideboard?
Irrefutable.
Sure.
Do you have it for? You said you have 4 of these.
I believe I do, yeah.
Okay, we definitely want this one, and this is from the DLC pack.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had a chance to if you just pick up 2 of those, you've got four copies of it.
So-
They are set packs as opposed to a random one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Thoughts on this deck?
you know, I do like I really do appreciate the differences that you've added in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because before I sort of put it all into like one attack, right? And
Right.
if I had to defend, if I was missing the summon dark shadows or something, I was kind of just like sitting in a pool, not knowing how to swim,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for death.
Right. Right.
Um, However, if I did get the summon dark shadows, I just didn't get the right attacks. I would have a slightly better chance. I do like the foundations you've added in. The ability to really be able to defend myself as well as stun my opponent down
Mm-hmm.
never really occurred to me. Because again, I've played other card games, and a lot of those card games just say, "Hey, I'm going to do my own thing. My opponent can't touch me.
What
I'm
card
going to."
games?
Oh God. Let's see. I've played Digimon Vanguard. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh. These are like all I've gone to tournaments for too,
Right, right, right.
not just like at home playing with
Hmm.
friends. Where was it? Oh, I've played Magic the Gathering. I played Pokemon for a few tournaments, and I was like, this is super boring. Um, and I think those are I think those are the ones that I can think of right now.
Okay.
But My
Okay.
Hero, I'm really enjoying too.
Yeah, that's rad. Like the biggest thing about what I've done to your deck is I have just opened up your available net, right? Of like the things that you can deal with because I mean, we have 30 cards or 30 characters inside of our standard and all 30 of those characters are good enough to go take down a tournament, right? They're probably at least your locals, right? I don't think that there's a single character inside of the set one that you will go to locals, play 100 games, and lose all of them. I don't think there's a character that does that if you build a good deck.
Mhm.
And there are some characters inside of other card games that like that's just not true. Like it's just not possible to win with this character.
Sure.
It's just not good enough. And so
Yeah.
the fact that we have a 30 card meta, if we want to talk about it, we have like a 15 character meta that you could like sit down and be like, this character could go with a good pilot and go take a tournament.
Yeah.
And so that means that your deck needs to be prepared for 15 characters. And I
Yeah.
feel that playing 50 card decks, that's really hard to do. But for a consistent OTK Tokoyami, you kind of have to. And
Yeah.
so opening up these and like reducing this from 4 down to 2 so that we can play things like Clever Distraction to round out our edges and help us with the bad matches is going to find you more success, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, and I would like to say this just because I feel like we're getting towards the end. The
Please.
reason I built this deck was actually because I watched I think it was the second tier list you made, and Tokoyami was up there. You said, if he doesn't hit what he wants to hit, then he's down to like tier, what was it, like 3 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if he does, he can, crush most other characters.
Mm-hmm.
And that really appealed to me because I was like, well, I don't like games where I know I'm going to win because this ABC happens and I win.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I really do enjoy this. I feel like for anyone listening, trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how the meta goes, your video was actually extremely helpful. Um,
Well, thank you.
yeah, of course. I would 100% go suggest watching that.
Well, I appreciate that. That makes me feel very good. It makes me feel like I did a good job on it. I was
Of course.
nervous. So, is there anything on here that you vehemently disagree with? Once again, this isn't my deck. This is your deck.
So yeah, I don't think there's anything that I'm like super against.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate you keeping it down to like a 50 card deck. The
Yeah, for sure.
important part for me for keeping it to 50 was that I need to hit summon Dark Shadow. If I don't
Mm-hmm.
hit summon Dark Shadow, I'm screwed.
Right, 100%.
Like if I'm going second, I don't see summon Dark Shadow, and I need like I typically go for like 5 foundations. Going second, I don't see summon Dark Shadow. I'm like the top, what was it, 10 plus the Tokoyami if I need to attack would be 15. Uh, it hurts like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so adding stuff like adding in the defense, adding in the everything else is great. I would say if anyone else listening should definitely do this. And I'd also say because I've played so many other card games, I know which ones I really hate. The ones that I really hate are you have to buy the new cards to win.
Yeah.
So if any of the devs are listening, make sure you keep the power level around the same.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, because if it
Jessica's been
gets out of
Jessica's been pretty good about trying to keep things power level friendly.
yeah,
With the cards that we've seen from set 2, it doesn't appear that anything's like Deku 2 is so much better than every other character in the whole game. It's certainly better than Deku 1, but like it's cool to have a playable
yeah.
Deku.
Which I appreciate. I've been watching some of the new stuff come out, and I'm like, this doesn't seem too broken, doesn't seem completely meta defining.
Yeah.
Um, and I am excited to see what comes out next because a lot of my favorite decks are also the ones that do kind of janky, weird stuff that isn't like main. Like I'm going to boost my attack and speed so much you can't stop it.
Yeah.
I'm going to know what comes next so I can have a perfect play every single time. I'm going to blah blah blah. I like to do weird stuff,
For sure.
and I think Tokoyami embodies this.
And you picked a great symbol. You picked the chaos symbol.
Yeah,
You just truly want
yeah,
to give chaos.
yeah.
All right, man. Any other questions?
I think I'm good.
All right. Thank you so much for supporting on Patreon once again. I making the dream happen. This is a very fun deck to doctor.
Of course.
You
Thank
are
thank you too for taking your time.
Yeah, you're in the Discord, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
because
I hope so.
we should no, we're not talking there. Yeah, we should let us know how this deck does. Drop it in the Tokoyami section in the Discord, and we can chat about it. What you liked, what you didn't like, so on and so forth. I'd love to hear some notes on it. Okay.
Of course. Yeah,
All
of
right.
course.
You have a good night. Okay.
Um, you too. Oh, actually, can you send me the link to the deck list of the stuff you've altered too?
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
Peace, guys.
All right.